Recently, we uploaded a deep dive video all about the Republic's clone commandos, comparing them to the United States Navy SEALs. We mentioned that commandos were the best of the best, second perhaps only to the Advanced Recon Commandos or the ARC Troopers. If clone commandos were Navy SEAls, ARC Troopers were closer to the US Army Rangers. While commandos would often specialize in a specific aspect of combat, say marksmanship or hand-to-hand combat, ARCs could essentially serve as a one-man army, more of a jack-of-all-trades if you will. These elite clone troopers were top-notch and one of the Republic's greatest assets throughout the Clone Wars. So, let's talk about ARC Troopers and their various classes. Let's begin with the first class of ARC Troopers ever created, the Null class ARC Troopers. I should also mention that about 99% of ARC Trooper lore that we will cover in this video falls under the category of Star Wars Legends, with Disney canon material only really consisting of the 2008 Clone Wars series. Now, the Nulls. Why were they even created in the first place? Well, during the early stages of the Clone Army's planning and development, Jango Fett and his Mandalorian military advisors advocated for the creation of specialized clones capable of handling covert missions too delicate for the standard clone troopers. To achieve the desired results, the Kaminoan cloners did not apply the standard behavior correction found in other clones, and enhanced their genetic sample to increase physical prowess. The first attempt at genetic alterations resulted in the creation of the Null class ARC Troopers. The first generation of ARCs would have greatly enhanced muscular structure, intelligence, and independence compared to the original Jango Fett template. Of these 12 prototype Null class ARC Troopers, only 6 actually survived the incubation process. Those that remained were quickly considered too independent and unpredictable, and thus were deemed defective units and scheduled for execution. Once the Mandalorian Sergeant Kal Skirata arrived on Kamino, he was horrified to learn that the 6 young Nulls were to be executed and decided to take them under his care. Skirata gave them names and saw to their training in the areas of assassination, black ops, anti-terrorism, covert ops, espionage, slicing, and medicine. He would even later adopt them as his own sons. The Nulls and Kal Skirata were reluctantly tolerated in the Grand Army of the Republic, seeing action in conflicts like the First Battle of Geonosis. In the end, most of the Nulls would end up deserting the Grand Army of the Republic to join Skirata on Mandalore. The second generation of ARC Troopers were known as the Alpha class. After the failure of the Nulls in the minds of the Kaminoans, the Alpha ARCs were specifically trained to be more obedient than their prototype brothers. 100 clones in all made up the Alpha class and were personally trained by Jango Fett to be tough, inventive, and very dangerous fighters. While they were trained to be independent thinkers, they were also taught to be above all else loyal to the Republic and to support their future Jedi commanders. Under Fett's strict discipline, they learned to use their fierce independence, innate creativity, and physical superiority in combination with their training in advanced weapons and vehicles to become virtual one-man armies. Fett was even able to personally instill specific orders into the Alpha class ARCs. There was a tense rivalry between the Null class and Alpha class ARC Troopers during the Clone Wars. While the Alpha ARCs were loyal only to the Galactic Republic and followed the Jedi's leadership to a certain extent, the Null ARCs swore their loyalty to only Kal Skirata. Hence, the Alpha class ARCs saw the Nulls as renegade clones and a shame to Jango Fett's legacy. On the flip side, the Nulls saw the Alphas as inferior and blindly loyal. After completing their training, the Alpha class ARC Troopers were locked in stasis on Kamino until they were required. That time would come just 2 months into the Clone Wars, when the CIS decided to attack Kamino. As droid detachments closed in on Tipoca City, Prime Minister Lama Su activated the Alpha class ARC Troopers and authorized their deployment to hotspots across Kamino in a last-ditch effort to save the planet's precious cloning facilities. The Alpha class ARCs worked with the Jedi, including Anakin Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Shaak Ti, to repel the droid forces. At one point, the ARC Trooper known as Alpha 17 was prepared to kill every young clone on Kamino to protect Jango Fett's legacy should the planet have fallen into Separatist control. Alpha was named by Anakin and would later be an inspiration behind Captain Rex's creation. They were originally going to be the same character, but George Lucas objected because of our main cast already including Anakin, Ahsoka, and to a lesser extent R2. Hence the name Rex was chosen to avoid literary repetitiveness. Once Order 66 was initiated, several Alpha Class ARCs did decide to go through with the Chancellor's order, but many of the others chose to disobey Palpatine due to their unaltered independent minds and close experiences with the Jedi during the Clone Wars. Some Alpha Class ARC troopers retired to Coruscant or Kamino and became teachers for the Empire's Stormtrooper program. Others followed in Jango Fett's footsteps and became bounty hunters, while some joined the Rebel Alliance. Although only 100 Alpha Class ARC troopers were originally produced, they were able to pass on their training to new troopers after the death of Jango Fett in Attack of the Clones. Alpha himself returned to Kamino to train the next generation of clone commanders in the ARC training program. This Alpha training program was designed to equip clone trooper commanders with similar training to that of the Alpha Class ARC troopers. During this training, the ARC-trained clone commanders were taught to think more creatively and to bring out their independence and tactical decisiveness. They soon became some of the most outspoken and independent clones. Although not technically ARC troopers, they were essentially the next best thing. Participants in the program were rewarded with the right to take nicknames to be used instead of their numerical designations. Some of the most notable graduates of the ARC training program include Gree, Apo, Fox, Bakara, Cody, Wolf, Thyre, Bly, Neo, Oddball, and Rex. Though not genetically modified in the same manner as the Alpha ARCs, the clones who participated in this program were able to adopt some of the individualized practices of the Alpha Class ARCs. This brought a new sense of creativity to the strategy of the Grand Army of the Republic. As the war raged on and more clones died on the front lines, new ARC troopers would be required for specialized missions. As supply shortened but demand only increased for special forces like the ARCs, the Republic turned to other standard clones to fill these roles. Clone troopers who demonstrated exceptional ability could have the distinct honor of being promoted to the rank of ARC trooper, though they were not genetically engineered in the same way as the Alpha and Null classes and lacked the specialized ARC training program. ARCs of this class included the Rancor battalions Colt, Blitz, and Havoc. These clones were at one point stationed at Tipoca City on Kamino. There they looked for clone cadets that could eventually become ARC troopers themselves. Colt and Havoc would be killed during the Battle of Kamino, a conflict which saw both Fives and Echo of the 501st Legion promoted to the rank of ARC trooper following their heroics in the successful defense of the clones' home planet. Fives and Echo would go on to aid in dangerous missions like the rescue of Jedi Master Evan Peel from the Citadel prison and the Battle of Umbara, one of the most devastating of the entire war. The 501st's Jesse would also later be promoted to the rank of ARC Trooper sometime after Umbara, a rank which he would hold until complying with Order 66. As depicted in the 2005 Star Wars Battlefront 2 video games campaign, following the rise of the Empire, a final batch of ARC Troopers were bred. Having made the mistake of indoctrinating the original Fett clones with absolute loyalty to the Republic, and thus the Empire, the Kaminoans sought to rectify their error by discreetly breeding a new clone army that was completely obedient to their Kaminoan creators. While the majority of the army was composed of anti-troopers, a special force of elite soldiers were created to complement the regular soldiers. Hence, the Kaminoans engineered a new generation of ARC troopers, known as the Rail-class ARC troopers. They wore the original Phase 1 clone trooper armor. The Rail-class ARC troopers were stationed within the Tipoca City cloning facility to protect the Kaminoans' precious batches of young clones that were still being developed to fight the Empire. Under the observation of the Kaminoans, the Rail-class ARCs and the rest of the rebel clones were grown and trained for nearly a decade. But when the Empire learned of Kamino's plans for insurrection, Darth Vader dispatched a special detachment of the 501st Legion under the command of the bounty hunter Boba Fett to Kamino with orders to annihilate the entire army of rebel clones. Thus, the Rail-class ARC troopers made their first and last stand alongside the anti-troopers at the Kamino Uprising. While the anti-troopers defended Tipoca City's outer perimeter, the Rail-class ARC troopers remained within the cloning facility to protect the batches of undeveloped rebel clones. Despite their fast growth and training, the anti-troopers proved to be no match against Fett and the battle-hardened stormtroopers of the 501st Legion, many of whom were veterans of the Clone Wars. After storming the facility, Fett and his stormtroopers were suddenly engaged by the Rail-class ARC troopers, some of whom tried to take the fight outside and prevent the Imperials from breaching Tipoca City. Their efforts failed, however, and the life support systems were destroyed, thus aborting the unborn anti-troopers before they even had a chance to fight. With the rebel Kaminoans' capabilities to defend the city or grow another clone army severely diminished, they opted to attempt to escape from Kamino before the battle was completely lost. In the meantime, the last of the Rail-class ARC troopers joined the remaining anti-troopers as they desperately fought against their relentless Imperial clone brethren. Though they battled hard, Fett and the 501st Stormtroopers succeeded in crowding the rebel clones out onto the platforms, where they were exterminated to the very last clone. But now that we've discussed both, which do you prefer, Clone Commandos or ARC Troopers? Let us know down in the comments below. If you did enjoy, make sure to click the like button and subscribe if you are new to join the Red Squadron. Until next time, thank you so much for watching, and may the Force be with you. Red 5, standing by.